Hi guys, so I don't really know how to start this video, but yes, I'm here to finally reveal and talk to you guys about the 2021 Doodle Planner. Yay! I know this is a little bit of a different type of launch video for me. Usually I have these fancy, high quality release videos that I film in a studio with a video production crew and all of that, but for obvious reasons, this year, due to the pandemic, I am not able to film one of those. And honestly, I actually just kind of really wanted to sit down and chat with you guys and talk to you guys about the whole process of making the 2021 Doodle Planner because it was an interesting one. So, are you guys ready to see the 2021 Doodle Planner? Yes. Okay, ready? Ta-da! Here she is. Look at her. She's so beautiful. So if you guys don't know what the Doodle Planner is, if there's any new people here watching, the Doodle Planner is something that I started last year. I launched my company Shop Amanda Rach Lee exactly a year ago with the 2020 Doodle Planner, and it's basically a hybrid of a coloring book, a planner, and a journal. So it has all of my hand-drawn doodles in it with a planner layout, and you can color the doodles in, customize it to your liking, and you know, it's just something that I am really proud of. When we launched it last year, I didn't really expect the response from you guys that it got. We ended up selling out almost all of the doodle planners, which is amazing. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed the 2020 Doodle Planner, and I'm really excited that we have one for this new year. As you can see, this is a new color. It looks white on camera, but it's actually a really light pastel lilac lavender-ish color, and this is one of the 5 brand new colors, all new colors from this year. A lot of people were asking me about that, but yes, we have a blush pink, which is a lot more neutral toned than the coral from last year. There is a taupe color, which is a little bit beige-y, and then a dark gray, as well as a baby pastel blue. So I think they're so pretty. I love the colors from this year. And as you can tell from the doodles on the outside of the cover, there are also brand new themes on the inside. If you weren't here when I launched the 2020 Doodle Planner, I basically included themes that were some of my audience, you guys, the little doodles, favorites from my videos. And this year is no different. We just chose 12 brand new themes. Some of the ones that you guys might recognize and know from my videos that are included in this year's is the 80s retro theme, the Art Deco theme, we have the stationery theme, the Harry Potter wizardry theme, and the lo-fi staying at home theme. So yes, all new themes and drawings and doodles, all hand-drawn by me, of course. And I really love the way that they turned out because I tried to make them a lot more doodly this year, if that makes sense, from the previous year. There's a lot more things for you guys to color in, and I think it just looks really nice overall. Just a little more details about the inside of the planner. I kept the layouts pretty much the same as last year, just because based off the feedback that I got, people really liked that weekly spread layout and all of that. But what I did add based on your guys' feedback was on the inside of each weekly spread box, I added dot grids so that you can write out your tasks straighter and easier. Another really cute feature that I added this year is that there's a cute little star charm at the bottom of the bookmark, which I think adds a nice cute little touch. We have the same high quality 160 GSM paper so you can color in all of the doodles to your heart's content, and there's still blank dotted pages in there and pages for you to reflect on your goals and for the year. This baby is just finally out there. I really wasn't sure if it was gonna happen this year, which I will get into later in the video. Now for how you can actually get your hands on the 2021 Doodle Planner, pre-order is gonna begin November 12th. I'll put all the details up on the screen right now, and we will be shipping them out starting the end of or last week of November. I don't have the exact details in front of me, but again, all the details will be in the description box below. Of course, it's available internationally, and you can get it on shopamandarachlee.com. We do have very limited quantities for this first pre-order due to a bunch of things. Again, going to talk about this later in the video, But yeah, if you guys really want to get your hands on one for the new year, make sure you get yours on Shop Amanda H. Lee on November 12th for pre-order. Details in the description box below. But for the rest of the video, I really wanted to just sit down and chat with you guys about the whole process of making this baby here and running a stationery business since I started it almost a full year ago now, which is crazy. And just chat with you guys because I feel like I don't really get to talk to you guys about the behind the scenes and all of that. And I did talk about this in a previous video, but I do want to be more transparent with you guys about what it's like to run a business and what it's been like, especially during this really weird year. So I wanted this part to be more like podcast style, so I'll just be sitting and chatting. Look guys, I even have like a podcast mic here. So if you want to just have this part on audio and just like, you know, get work done while listening to me chat about stuff, feel free to. I'm not even sure if people will continue listening to this part, but if you are here and you want to hear more about the behind the scenes, then thank you. Where should I begin? I guess we should begin kind of right after the launch of the 2020 Doodle Planner, just to give a full picture view of this whole thing. So I started Shop Amanda H. Lee exactly a year ago, and a lot of people know that after that launch, it took a toll on me really hard mentally, because after that, that's when I ended up taking my month-long YouTube break. And it wasn't only because of Shop Amanda H. Lee related stuff. There was obviously a lot of other things going on, but the stress of that launch was definitely a big part of it. So that basically knocked off like February and March out of the way. And then of course the pandemic started. So there's a whole other set of battles. And I was still struggling. By no means did like the 1 month break on YouTube heal me perfectly, but it definitely helped a lot. You know, this year was tough for me, and I'm sure it was tough for a lot of other people. So all the while during that YouTube break and when the pandemic first started getting really intense, I knew in the back of my mind that I needed to start thinking about the 2021 Doodle Planner, especially because I really wanted to get it out earlier this year. Last year, it was one of the reasons why it was so stressful is because it was kind of, not last minute, but we released it later. It was my first launch, so I just didn't know how many hiccups we would have along the way and how long things like shipping and all of that takes. So because of all the hiccups we had from the 2020 Doodle Planner launch for this year, I was like, okay, this year we're gonna release it earlier so that I can avoid all of those issues, and I need to finish this planner really soon. But, you know, I was still in kind of not a 100% mental space, especially because thinking about the 2022 Doodle Planner kind of triggered my negative thoughts that I had associated with it, because when one of the reasons why I was struggling and ended up taking the break was because of some of the unnecessary comments that I got about the Doodle Planner launch initially, which we can get into a bit later, but you know, some of the comments were that I was just money hungry. Some of the comments were people saying they didn't like the Doodle Planner, which is totally valid, but you know, it was something that I really put a lot of effort into. Yeah, even though there was a lot of positive feedback about the Doodle Planner launch, I think because I was in a vulnerable mental state around that time, thinking about working on it really triggered me, and I kind of struggled sitting down and getting started on it. So I just kept making videos, doing my thing. We released washi tapes in between then, which I actually did really enjoy that launch because it was a bit more chill. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I really had to crack down on this 2021 Doodle Planner if I wanted to release it. There were already a ton of people asking me whether there was going to be a 2021 Doodle Planner, and at that point, honestly, I really didn't know. I didn't know whether personally I would be able to sit down and create another one alongside all of the regular videos that I make, all of the things that I do on the back end. I almost felt like guilty for having mixed feelings towards the Doodle Planner because I was so grateful that so many people enjoyed using it and spent their hard-earned money on my creations. but then the flip side of it was those negative emotions attached with that launch. So I didn't want the negative emotions to win, if that makes sense. I knew I had to overcome it and just do it. So I sat down, started designing the new doodle planner, and I eventually got into it, and I was really proud of what I was creating for this 2021 doodle planner, and I drew all of them by hand again this year. I actually wanted to show you guys some of the sketches from the actual real sketches for this year's planner because they're all on paper here. You guys really like when I show you guys, you know, some behind the scenes stuff. So yes, all of them I do by hand, and then we digitize them to go into the planner, and that is kind of why it takes a little bit longer for me to make, but I don't know, that was pretty cool. The Art Deco one, oh, upside down, the Art Deco one is in this year's planner. Some of your guys' favorites, the stationery, all of that. I don't know, thought you guys might be interested in seeing that. I even included the process of me drawing the 2021 doodle planner in some of my vlogs, so you guys got to see some more behind the scenes from that. I was happy with the way things were turning out with the 2021 doodle planner designs, and I was kind of moving on from the trauma in my mind that I associated with the initial launch. So let's talk about that trauma. And I know I'm calling it trauma, but I really just don't have a better word for it. Trauma sounds a bit dramatic, but I guess it was kind of a catalyst for me taking a break. So I guess I can't call it that. But I did just want to explain kind of why that doodle planner launch weighed so heavily on me and why it still does, and maybe some misconceptions that are kind of still out there about Shop Amanda H. Lee and my products in general. By the way, my thoughts might be a little bit unorganized just because I didn't think about exactly what I wanted to say. I just have some like keynotes of things that I wanted to talk about in this. So if I go all over the place, please excuse me. But maybe let's start off with like starting a small business in general, and also maybe like being a quote unquote YouTuber slash influencer starting a small business. So I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but Shop Amanda H. Lee is fully self-funded, and it is my own small business. A lot of other YouTubers or creators who release merch that you see out there, a lot of them go through third parties where the third party company will create the merch, whether it be like hoodies, t-shirts, and all of that. They'll pay for all of that merch, sell it to the viewers, and the influencer or the YouTuber doesn't have to put up any of their own funds in order to do that. So they only get like a percentage of the revenue. That's not the case for Shop Amanda H. Lee. I have self-funded it from the beginning. It's all my baby, it's my business. There's nobody else calling the shots. And there's good and bad things with that. The good is obviously that I get full creative control. I get to release what I want to release. I'm not limited by what a third-party company has available and all of that. The bad part of it is that I am responsible for everything, and I am just one person. I do have a small team in my small business. There's like a few other people on the back end, but really it's not too many people considering the size that it has become. When I first thought of releasing merch, I definitely like considered going through the third party, but at the end of the day, I just have always liked having control. And I figured that this was kind of the best option for me. Now, the issues. It's been a full year since I started it, so there's been so many things that I learned along the way. Regarding being like an influencer, YouTuber, I just don't know what to call myself. I don't really like any of those words. Someone with an audience who starts a business. Small businesses usually have time to grow. They can grow larger, and their audience and their customer base kind of grows along with it. But for me and for any other creators or people with audiences who start a small business, I'm kind of starting off with a large audience to begin with, which is a lot of pressure, especially because, you know, my name is attached to this brand and people have a lot of expectations of what I put out there as a product. And you kind of don't have that leeway of a small business first starting out, where when you're a small business, you have a smaller customer base, so you're able to make mistakes here and there and learn from them and grow, because, you know, it's a small business. You don't start off perfect right away, but you have a smaller customer base, so you're able to make those mistakes. But in the situation where you already kind of have a large audience, when you make those small mistakes, it's amplified that much larger because you already are starting out with a larger customer base. And I guess people kind of expect me to run almost like a corporation, if that makes sense, which was something I didn't really realize would happen first starting out. I didn't think people would expect me to run like Amazon or anything, but I totally understand. I totally understand that people just have high expectations of me, which I appreciate, and it does make me want to grow and get better. But I'm only a year into this business thing, and there's so much for me to learn. There's so much I have learned. I also didn't go to business school to learn all of this, which is not an excuse. There's always resources out there, but I'm just kind of giving some context of like me being kind of like one person swimming in this small business sea that seemed kind of all new to me when I first started this. And when I did make a mistake, I would just be really hard on myself, because I also wanted this to be a perfect business and perfect launch, and only now am I realizing that it will be, and I just need to give myself time. You know, things aren't built in a year. All of the businesses now that you know and love probably have taken years and years to grow and perfect and cultivate. So now I'm able to really give myself that space to grow and learn, whereas before I would just be almost too harsh on myself, so it wouldn't lend to any positive growth. And on the topic of people expecting small businesses to run like Amazon or a corporation, that's something that I still struggle with. This is probably the only section where I'm gonna vent a little bit, but I really wish people would realize the reason why large corporations are able to price things at a really low price point and are able to offer free shipping and stuff like that. Maybe think about why large corporations are able to price things that low, you know, the ethics of it, who gets paid, all of that. I do feel like it harms small businesses in a way, because the amount of comments that I get from people saying that my products are overpriced, or that I'm trying to money grab or just trying to get rich. It's kind of crazy to me, just because like someone has to get paid. The couriers who ship your items, they have to get paid. The people who make the products, they have to get paid. All of that. I don't know, I think the AliExpresses and Amazons of the world have kind of ruined that for people, because a lot of people just kind of expect everything to be $5 with free shipping now, which is it's very disheartening, I guess, for small businesses, because a lot of people end up having to price their products cheaper than what they're actually worth. I've also tweeted about this, but that is not me shaming anyone who is not able to afford a product. If my products or any other items are out of your price range or your budget, that is totally okay, and there's no shame in finding a cheaper alternative elsewhere. However, some people take it upon themselves to bash small businesses for pricing their products a certain way, and when they use the term overpriced, that's when it kind of hurts a little bit more, because overpriced insinuates that the product is low quality and not worth the price. Whereas a product can be a higher price, high quality, but just out of your price range, which is totally okay. Emma Chamberlain actually talked about this a little bit in her podcast, where she was talking about her coffee company, because I guess she got criticized for the prices of her coffee as well. And I also saw this viral TikTok about this, but the gist of it was essentially like, you know, I'd rather price my products knowing that my products are high quality, that everyone's getting paid properly, and you know, I'd rather aim it towards someone who values that when they're purchasing products, because if I sacrifice any of those things just so that I can, you know, sell more, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. And also, you know, we'll get off of this topic in a little bit, but on the topic of being overpriced, it's so weird to me when people do say that products are overpriced, because you don't know how much it costs to make that specific item. You know, to all the people saying that I'm doing this to get rich, I've not made a cent off of Shop Amanda H. Lee personally. All of the profits that I make from the company, I reinvest it back into the company so that we can you know, grow it, make it better, and all of that. Not that I ever have to justify that, but you know, it's just kind of funny to me when people use that as an argument. I'm not trying to be like defensive and fight with the haters in this video. I just kind of wanted to talk about it just because it was weighing on my chest, and I feel like this video is a good avenue to do that. Overall, the moral of the story is I really hope people start valuing artists and small businesses more. And if you are an artist or a small business, please know your value and don't undercut yourself. I spent years when I first started out doing freelance stuff undervaluing myself, and I let companies and sponsorships and all of that undercut me and pay me less, even though I knew what I was worth and I knew how much time and effort I had put into this and what I should be getting paid. But just because I was afraid of maybe not getting new clients / customers in whatever case you're talking about. And it is really difficult to price yourself and finally see yourself for value, because people will see that as you being either overly confident or maybe, you know, again, overpricing yourself. But as long as you know how much your time and your talent and your work is worth, then I think that's all that matters, and there will be someone who is willing to value you as much as you value yourself. So just a little word of encouragement out there. Anyway, let's go back to the process of me making the 2021 Doodle Planner. So I ended up finishing the inside designs of the 2021 Doodle Planner, all hand-drawn, doodled by me, of course. So they got sent to print, everything was looking smooth sailing, and I was really, really excited because it looked like we were going to be on track for an early release date or launch, which is something that I had wanted to do from last year, knowing how chaotic things were with the late launch last year. I was really proud of myself because not only did I get over the hump of, you know, the trauma associated with the Doodle Planner from last year, but also that was a feedback that a lot of people gave to me from last year's launch, was that they wanted it to be released earlier so that they could order, and you know, with all the shipping delays, I knew it was better for me to release it earlier anyway. So I was really happy that that ended up happening, and that it ended up happening in general, because I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to finish it. Fun fact about, you know, the Doodle Planner process with choosing the cover colors. So last year you guys saw all of the 5 colors. The manufacturer actually has this big kind of book of all the different color options of the vegan leather that, you know, they can do, and I chose my 5 favorite colors from that palette, and those were the colors that you saw for the 2020 Doodle Planners. Now for this year, you know, I knew I wanted to do 5 different colors. I didn't want to just release this exact same colors, but when I was looking through that book of faux leather samples that they sent, there wasn't 5 colors that really hit me. I knew what I wanted, but none of them were perfect to what I wanted. So what we ended up doing for this year's planner is custom dyeing the vegan leather. So that's why we have these nice, lovely pastel colors. The lavender personally is my favorite, I think, for this year. All of them were custom dyed. I chose out the Pantone shades and all of that, but that ended up adding extra time because they had to custom dye the faux leather to match those shades, and it wasn't kind of like the swatched palettes that they normally have in their book of samples. Yeah, that ended up taking extra time that we didn't realize, and mind you, amongst all of this process, this was around the like late summer wave of the pandemic, so a lot of things were just being delayed in general, and things just kept getting more delayed and more delayed and more delayed. Another thing that made the process even longer from last year was the custom charm that we added on the bookmark. So there's just all these little things that you don't realize, because obviously in my head a perfect launch would be we release these in like September, October, perfect launch, no hiccups, no delays, people can order it early, but that's just kind of not how things work. And especially not in a year where the entire world is in a global pandemic and everything's kind of delayed. Even after all of that, things were still moving pretty smoothly. We were still on track for our release date, which I was very happy about, but you know, the universe doesn't work this way, and especially not 2020. So the manufacturers were printing all of the planners and they were pretty much done everything, and just because of how the timing had worked out, the sample that I was getting was delayed a lot, so I only ended up receiving the sample when they were in the middle of printing the large quantity of books, just because, you know, we had made the 2020 doodle planners previous year, so there was kind of an understanding of how they were supposed to look, and you know, the files were all looked good and everything, and I had gotten samples of the covers before. Then when I got the final sample in the middle of them printing the large amount of books, I look through it and my heart drops. This was like literally a few weeks ago, guys. I look in there and there's a printing error. Basically, the manufacturers, there was some issues with the printing. I don't know what ended up happening. There's always kind of like printing errors that happen in this industry. It's very common. It's not really like, it's not anyone's fault, you know, things happen. It was just very frustrating because things were going so smoothly up until that point. You know, I had a little bit of a mental breakdown. I thought we were gonna have to cancel the launch and maybe move the 2021 doodle planner to 2022 or something. We ended up working things out and having to reprint a bunch, but there's going to be a smaller quantity this year because of that mix-up and that misprint. But I'm just glad things ended up working out. But it was a very hard moment. It's hard for me to explain why I was so upset. Looking back on it now, I know that, you know, it's not really anyone's fault, but at the time it really felt like it was my fault. And I think it's because I already was struggling to create the 2021 doodle planner, and I had pushed it off, you know, after my break. So I felt like I was to blame. Like if I finished the inside part way sooner or didn't take my YouTube break, maybe then I would have had more time to, you know, start the sample process earlier, catch this printing mistake. But, you know, that's not realistic. You know, probably in some alternate timeline, I would have finished it earlier and there still would have been a printing mistake anyway, or, you know, things like this just happens. I'm fine now, but it was really hard to hear that basically all of my planners had printing errors in them and I just didn't know what was gonna happen with the launch. I honestly thought that we were gonna have to cancel this launch in total, but I'm just glad that we have them and I'm grateful that things ended up working out. But yeah, there's just always things like this in being a small business owner that come up and it's very stressful. What should we talk about now? Maybe let's talk about shipping, because shipping is really important and it's been really weird this year. I'm sure if any of you have ordered anything online, then you'll know that a lot of shipping delays have been happening in general, not just with my products, with like every product, just because of border restrictions due to the pandemic, delays. So last year, one of the main feedback that I got was the shipping wait times. And obviously that was really important to me because I know the struggle of like waiting a really long time for shipping. I know it sucks. But last year we just didn't foresee how many delays would happen and how long things would take. internationally and all of that. So we really took that into account for this year. And recently we implemented a new system on our website that allows you to have your duties paid upfront or included in the price, whereas before things would have to go through customs and depending on where you lived, because we're shipping from the US, depending on where you lived, you would have to pay customs fees. Obviously, if it was up to me, I wouldn't want you guys to pay any extra customs or duties fees, but you know, it's all up to each individual country's regulations of shipping and all of that. But with this new system that we implemented on our website, you're able to see all of that upfront, and it actually makes the shipping way faster. We've seen a really drastic cut down in shipping times, so I'm really happy that we were able to do that for this launch. So hopefully things go well, especially because who knows what's gonna happen with pandemic delays. I get a lot of comments from people saying like, why don't you offer free shipping? Your shipping's too expensive. And I think I want to again refer to the whole Amazon, AliExpress comparison. People who ship stuff and who are couriers do have to get paid. So when companies offer free shipping on your order, it doesn't mean that the shipping companies or the courier isn't getting paid. It just means that it's included in the price of your product, or the company is kind of taking that hit and eating that cost on their end, if that makes sense. So I know it sounds really nice to have free shipping, and I probably could do that, but it would mean I would have to increase the price of my products, and I would just rather be very straight and upfront with you guys of how much each thing actually costs, because the cost that you see on the website for shipping is exactly what it is. And same with, you know, my product. I don't want to jack up the price just so that I can say free shipping on my website, you know? I don't really know what else to talk about. The main goal of this was for me to address a lot of people's concerns, because sometimes I feel like I address them individually when I reply to comments or DMs about specific things, but maybe not in a I've never done it in like a widespread public way like this. And maybe it was just interesting for you guys to hear the whole process about, you know, the 2021 doodle planner. In general, I do want to say, obviously, I'm so grateful for you guys supporting me growing Shop Amanda H. Lee. It's only been a year, but there's so many things that I want to do with Shop Amanda H. Lee, and like, this is only the beginning. We're only a year in. If Shop Amanda H. Lee was a baby, they're not even an infant yet, or well, wait. They're not even a toddler yet. They're just a little baby infant, fresh out of the womb, ripe for growing and harvesting, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And I do want to also appreciate all of the amazing customers who have left such positive feedback. I think when you're a small business and you're just used to kind of doing customer service in general, you're really used to addressing all of the negative feedback and just making sure that everyone is happy with their order. But I always have to remind myself that there are so many happy customers that don't leave reviews. Personally, when I purchase something and I'm happy about it, I don't like make a note to go to the company's website and be like, wow, I am so happy with my purchase. I know a lot of people do that, but personally I don't. I'm just like, wow, this is a great purchase, and I go on about my life using it happily. So I always have to remind myself that there are a bunch of little doodles who are like that. I don't want this video to come off as if I can't take negative feedback, because that is not the case. I love hearing constructive criticism in ways that my company and this whole thing, Shop Amanda H. Lee, can be better, because that's ultimately my goal. And I know that, you know, the true little doodles just want to see that and to see it grow with me. So I do just really appreciate all of the customers for Shop Amanda H. Lee who have been there from the beginning, supporting, you know, whether you've purchased something or not. It's just really encouraging that people are there to support me and watch this whole thing grow, because who knows where it's gonna go. That being said, of course, if you are unhappy with anything about your order, please reach out to our customer service. We have a dedicated customer service team specifically for that reason. My goal is just for you guys to be happy with, you know, what you get, and just for Shop Amanda H. Lee to be the best thing that it could possibly be. That takes time. I always want things to be perfect, and I need to remind myself that it can't happen overnight. So, you know, with the buildup of feedback from all of you, that's how we'll get to that positive point. All right, so I think I talked a lot. I probably am gonna end this soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this like chill podcast talk style video. Maybe if you guys want to hear more stuff like this about the behind the scenes of the business or YouTube or anything, let me know. I guess I just wanted to explain the journey of creating the 2021 doodle planner because it really was a process. I almost feel like really emotionally attached to this specific planner because to me it is like a symbol of triumph, getting over all of, you know, my hardships and my trauma associated with it. And I'm really proud of it. At the end of the day, I'm just really proud of it. And that's all I can ask for. I'm just so happy that we ended up doing another one. I hope you guys like it as well and enjoy using it for this year, no matter whether you use it as a actual planner or a diary to write stuff in. Maybe you just like coloring it in, I don't know, who knows. My favorite part from this year was actually seeing how everyone filled in their 2020 doodle planners because everyone filled it in such a unique way to them, and it was really cool to see all of the different things people did with their planners. So I mean, we post a bunch of those on the shop Instagram account, ShopAmandaHlee. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with this year's. I hope you have fun with it, and thank you for listening to me blab about it. Again, if you want to grab a 2021 doodle planner, my little baby, you can grab yours at shopamandahlee.com on November 12th for pre-order. Thank you guys for all of your support. I really appreciate it, and this wouldn't be possible without you guys. Whether you buy the doodle planner or not, you just being here watching my videos, watching me grow and supporting my company growing and all of that, I appreciate it all nonetheless. So keep doodling, guys, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye everyone.